I want you to just picture a scene for a second. Imagine stepping into a time machine, dialing it back just 1 year, let's say to early 2024.
Okay.
You walk into a partner meeting, one of those prestigious mahogany-paneled law firms, and you tell this room full of skeptical, risk-averse lawyers that within 12 months, the number of them using generative AI is going to nearly double.
They would have laughed you out of the room. I mean, security would have been
Exactly. You'd be escorted right out. But that is exactly what happened. We went from about 14% adoption to 26% by 2025.
Wow.
And that statistic is really the hook for our deep dive today. We're looking at this massive report. It's titled simply AI in the Legal Industry. And honestly, my big takeaway from reading it, we aren't talking about sci-fi anymore.
No, not at all. The experimental phase is, for all intents and purposes, over. The adoption curve has just gone vertical.
Right.
And what's so fascinating about this report is it moves past the hype cycle, those breathless robot lawyer headlines that were everywhere a few years ago, and it gets right into the plumbing. How is this actually reshaping a trillion-dollar industry?
And just to set the scale here for you, this isn't just a couple of tech-savvy solo practitioners playing with ChatGPT on their lunch break.
Yeah.
The report highlights giants like Allen and Overy. They rolled out AI assistants to something like 3,500 lawyers. Globally, this is institutional.
It is the new reality. And our mission today is to really unpack that reality. We're going to look at the toolkit, what these supercharged assistants are actually doing.
But we also have to look at the train wrecks, right?
Oh, absolutely. The hallucinations, the biases, and there's this really fascinating regulatory battle playing out between the U.S. and Europe on how we use this data.
Okay, so let's start with the toolkit. Because I think when the average person hears AI in law, they imagine like a chatbot arguing a parking ticket in court.
Right.
But the reality described here is so much more sophisticated. The report ranks usage by adoption, and number one is legal research. They call it the search engine on steroids.
And it's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about how legal research worked for the last 30 years, it was all Boolean search.
Right. You had to type in negligence /S slip and fall /PIC sidewalk.
Exactly. It's this really rigid, keyword-based scavenger hunt.
And you have to know the magic words to find the case. If you don't guess the exact phrase a judge used in 1995, you might just miss the precedent entirely.
You'll miss it. But tools like Westlaw Precision or Lexis Plus AI have moved the industry to natural language. You can now just ask it, what are the latest EU cases regarding data privacy fines for tech companies?
And it gives you an answer, not just a list of links.
An actual answer.
Okay, that sounds really convenient, but it also sounds dangerous. We all know AI hallucinates. If I ask a standard chatbot for case law, it might just make it up.
It absolutely will.
So how are these legal tools different?
That is the critical distinction, and the report dives into the tech here, specifically something called RAG.
Retrieval Augmented Generation. It sounds like a weapon from a superhero movie.
It does.
But this is the secret sauce for professional AI, right?
It is, and it's actually a pretty simple concept to understand. Think of a standard large language model, like the base version of GPT-4, as a brilliant improviser. It has read the whole internet, but its memory isn't perfect.
Right.
So if you ask it a specific legal question, it might improvise an answer that sounds plausible, but is just factually wrong.
Which, in law, is malpractice. You can't just improvise the law.
Precisely. So ORAG solves this. It forces the AI to take an extra step. Before it answers you, it has to go retrieve relevant documents from a closed, trusted database.
Like the actual Westlaw library of verified case law.
Exactly.
So it's like taking a test, but instead of answering from memory, the teacher lets you open the textbook, find the specific paragraph, and then write your answer based only on that paragraph.
That's the perfect analogy. It grounds the AI in reality. It gives you citations. You can click a footnote and see the actual case it's referencing.
So it's no longer a black box guessing game.
Not at all. That's why I think the survey said 61% of lawyers now trust AI for summarizing case law. It's a verified, summarized search result.
Okay, so that handles research. But moving down the list, there's another application that seems to be the killer app for the business side of law. Contract review. The report calls this the drudgery killer.
If you have ever been a junior associate at a big law firm, this is the part where you start crying tears of joy.
Or maybe fear.
Or maybe fear, yeah, we'll get to that. But think about mergers and acquisitions M&A.
I'm just getting this mental image of a conference room at 2 in the morning filled with pizza boxes, stale coffee, and just these exhausted 20-somethings reading thousands of pages of contracts.
That is the scenario. Due diligence. One company buys another, and they have to read every single contract that target company has ever signed to check for risks. It is mind-numbing, error-prone, human misery.
And humans make mistakes when they're tired. It's inevitable.
Of course. But this is where tools like Kira Systems, Luminance, or Spellbook come in. They can ingest thousands of contracts and instantly pull the data. Show me every contract with a change of control clause. Show me every indemnity cap above $1 million.
And the report mentioned this cuts review time by, what was it, something massive.
Yeah, between 20 and 60%?
60%.
60% is the high end, yes. That is days of work turning into hours. And the accuracy is often way higher than a sleep-deprived human.
I saw that Spellbook integrates directly into Microsoft Word.
Right. It lives right there in the sidebar. It's not a separate dashboard. It acts like a smart editor.
How so?
So let's say you're drafting a supply agreement. Spellbook can scan what you've written, see that you're selling to a customer in Europe, and flag, hey, you're missing the GDPR data protection clause.
And then it suggests the language to fix it.
It does. This is the kicker. It gives you the specific legal language. It's like a senior partner hovering over your shoulder, checking your work in real time.
But without the billable rate of a senior partner.
Exactly. It frees up the lawyer to think about the strategy of the deal, not the formatting of the clause.
Speaking of finding needles in haystacks, we have to talk about e-discovery. Because lawsuits today are just mountains of emails, Slack messages, texts.
The volume is explosive. In a major corporate lawsuit, you might have 10 million emails to review. You literally cannot hire enough humans to read them all. This is where technology-assisted review, or TAR, is basically mandatory.
And tools like Relativity and Brainspace, how do they even start to handle that?
They use predictive coding.
Yeah.
A senior lawyer reviews, say, 500 documents. They teach the AI, this is relevant, this is junk. The AI learns that pattern and then applies it to the other 9.5 million documents, ranking them.
But the visualization aspect in the report really stood out to me, these communication maps.
Oh, the spider webs, yes. These tools can visualize who is talking to whom. So you see the CEO talking to the CFO, thick lines of communication. But the AI is brilliant at spotting anomalies.
Anomalies like what?
Like the sudden silence. Let's say two executives email each other 10 times a day. Then, the week before a huge scandal breaks, their emails just go to zero.
That looks suspicious, like they took the conversation offline.
Exactly. Or they move to encrypted signals. A human reading linear emails might miss that negative space, the silence. But the AI flags it immediately. It's digital detective work.
So we have these superpowers: research, drafting, discovery. If I'm a client, I'm loving this. But if I'm a lawyer, especially a junior one, I might be thinking, great, am I obsolete? But the report actually pushes back on that.
It does. The data suggests the current phase isn't replacement, it's burnout reduction. There's a survey by Ironclad mentioned. 76% of lawyers said AI decreased their feelings of burnout.
That is a huge number, but I have to play devil's advocate here. Is that just the honeymoon phase? Sure, right now it saves me from working weekends, but eventually won't the firm just realize they don't need as many of us?
That is the darker long-term question. Right now, the Copilot model is what's dominant. Microsoft 365, Copilot, Harvey AI, they draft the first pass, the human polishes.
It leverages the lawyer's time.
But the real pressure is coming from the clients, the corporate clients paying the bills.
They know these tools exist.
Exactly. They're starting to go to law firms and say, we are not paying you $500 an hour for a junior associate to summarize documents. We know a machine can do that in 10 minutes.
Oh, it's the whole business model of the law firm. The billable hour is under attack.
It's being forced to evolve. You can't bill for time the machine saved you. So firms have to move to value-based billing, flat fees. It's a competitive disadvantage not to use AI now.
Adapt or die. But, and there is always a but, when you rush to adapt, you make mistakes.
We have to talk about the hallucination horror story.
Oh yes, the Mata v. Avianca case. The cautionary tale that will be taught in law schools for decades.
So what happened? This was in New York, 2023, right? A lawyer representing a client who was injured on a flight used ChatGPT to write his legal brief.
And he didn't check the work.
He did not verify the citations. The AI invented 6 completely fictitious cases. It made up case names, docket numbers, even assented quotes from judges that never existed.
And he submitted this to a federal judge.
He did. And when the opposing counsel and the judge couldn't find the cases, the lawyer went back to ChatGPT and asked, are these cases real? And ChatGPT, in its infinite confidence, said yes.
It doubled down. That's the problem. They're so confidently incompetent.
Exactly. The consequences were, public embarrassment, a $5,000 fine. But the ripple effect was bigger. The report mentions Judge Brantley Starr in Texas. He now requires a mandatory certification.
A pledge, basically.
Basically, you have to sign a paper stating that if you used AI, a human being checked every single word. Verification is the new essential skill. You can't just copy-paste.
But hallucinations are one thing. I mean, bias is a much sneakier and maybe more dangerous problem. The report brings up the CoCounsel system.
This is where we move from embarrassing to systemically dangerous. CoCounsel is a risk assessment tool used in U.S. courts to help judges decide on bail or sentencing. It predicts the likelihood a defendant will reoffend.
And ProPublica did a big dive into this, right?
They did, and the findings were deeply disturbing. They found the system mislabeled black defendants as high risk at nearly twice the rate of white defendants.
That's staggering. How does a machine even learn to be racist?
It comes down to the training data. An AI trains on history. So if the historical arrest data reflects decades of, say, over-policing in certain neighborhoods, the AI learns that pattern and it just codifies it. It's a mirror.
So if you use that to dispense justice, you're just automating discrimination.
And you're giving it a veneer of scientific objectivity. The computer says he's high risk. It's much harder to argue against an algorithm than a human prosecutor.
So we have hallucinations, we have bias, and then we have the people who just try to push it way too far. The robot lawyer fail, do not pay.
Yes. The company that billed itself as the world's first robot lawyer.
I remember this. They actually wanted an AI to listen to a court proceeding in real time and feed arguments to a defendant through an earpiece.
It sounds like a generic sitcom plot. But the legal establishment did not find it funny at all. This hit a hard wall called the unauthorized practice of law.
Yeah, the Bar Association does not play around with that.
No. They shut it down immediately. And the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, stepped in and fined them $193,000 for deceptive marketing. Turns out, you can't just replace a licensed professional with a chatbot.
This really highlights a key takeaway for me. Law is a regulated profession. It's not like coding a new photo sharing app.
Not at all. And speaking of hitting walls, there's a massive battle happening over the fuel for these AI models. The data itself. Who owns the law?
This is the story of RSS Intelligence versus Thomson Reuters, right? Who owns Westlaw?
This is a classic David versus Goliath story, but Goliath wins. RSS was a startup trying to build an AI researcher to compete. But to train their AI, they needed case summaries, these things called head notes.
And Westlaw said, hands off our data.
Effectively. Westlaw sued them for copyright infringement, arguing RSS was scraping their proprietary data to build a competitor. RSS just couldn't sustain the legal battle. They had to shut down. A 2025 ruling confirmed it was infringement.
That feels like a huge barrier to entry if you need the data to build the tool, but 2 or 3 giant companies own all the libraries.
It creates a data moat. It suggests the big players, Westlaw and Lexis, are likely to just dominate the AI space because they own the training grounds.
Okay, so we've got the tech, the risks, the business battles. Let's zoom out to the regulatory landscape because, as is often the case, the U.S. and the EU are looking at this very, very differently.
A tale of two systems. The U.S. approach is largely laissez-faire. Innovate first, fix it later. We see tools like Lex Machina in the U.S. that let you profile judges.
Profile judges, like Judge Smith is grumpy on Mondays.
More like, Judge Smith only grants this specific motion 5% of the time. Or, Judge Smith rules for the plaintiff in patent cases 60% of the time.
That is incredibly valuable intelligence.
That's Moneyball for lawyers. You use data to shop for the best venue or tailor your arguments to a specific judge's biases. It's a strategic advantage.
Okay. And the EU?
The EU is taking a hard right turn on this. First, they have the AI Act, which classifies any AI assisting judges as high risk with strict transparency rules. But France went nuclear.
This is the part of the report that blew my mind. France made it a criminal offense.
Yes. In France, specifically for publishing analytics on individual judges' decision patterns, it is a criminal offense. Up to 5 years in prison?
5 years in prison for doing math on public court records. That seems intense.
The rationale is to protect judicial independence. They don't want judges feeling pressured by data or profiled like baseball players. They want the law to be about the law, not about the statistical tendencies of the person in the robe.
Wow. It just shows the philosophical gap. In the U.S., data is a weapon for your client. In France, using that same data is an attack on the integrity of the system.
Exactly. And if you're a global law firm, you have to navigate both realities.
So what does this all mean for the listener, whether they're a lawyer, a client, or just someone interested in tech? The report ends on this mantra: augment, not automate.
That is the bottom line. The robot lawyer taking over the courtroom is not happening. But the centaur, the human-AI hybrid, that is the future. The lawyer of tomorrow has to be part technologist.
You have to know how to prompt. You have to know how to verify.
You do. And there is a hopeful note here about access to justice. Legal help is famously expensive. If these tools lower the cost of production, legal help could become cheaper for everyone. That's the dream.
But there is a flip side to that efficiency. And this is the provocative thought I want to leave everyone with today. We talked about how AI kills the drudgery.
Boring stuff, yes.
But traditionally, isn't that drudgery how young lawyers learned the ropes?
That is the paradox of automation.
Yeah.
We call it the apprenticeship problem. If the machine does the grunt work, where do the apprentices learn their craft?
Right. If you never spend 3 years reading terrible contracts at 2 in the morning, do you ever develop the intuition to spot a bad clause when you are a partner?
Exactly. Intuition comes from experience. If we outsource the experience to an AI, we might be creating a hollowed-out generation of senior lawyers 10 years from now who don't actually know how the sausage is made.
The machine does the learning and the humans just sign the certification form.
It's a real risk. We get faster, but we might lose that deep expertise that comes from just doing the hard work.
Well, on that cheery note about the potential collapse of legal expertise, no, really, this has been fascinating. The tools are here, the risks are real, and the regulations are messy.
It's a brave new world for the law, for sure.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one. Stay curious and verify your sources.